Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Tom from UDS with another edition of UDS Interviews, our series where we chat to interesting people from around the world. Now, my guest this week is one of the true champions of British metal, managing to evolve, experiment, and overcome adversity to produce a sound that still sounds as fresh as it did nearly 2 decades ago, not to make you feel old. But here to talk about their upcoming album, it is my pleasure to introduce Ed and Paul from arguably the most handsomest band in the world today, Devil Sold His Soul.
How you doing, man? You alright?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you guys doing in these weird times that we live in?
Looking forward to seeing people.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
definitely. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Now. Beer garden.
Have you been outside yet? I haven't.
I've been to the shop and back, but it's only the corner shop, so that's a can of off-brand energy drink and maybe a Twix if I'm feeling lucky. But that's
I'm with you. That's basically it for me as well. And it's my mum's birthday today, and I was like, I can't wait to go and see her at the weekend and just say hi, obviously at distance, because I don't have to touch each other, which is mental. But I understand, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been all right. It hasn't been too bad. I think we've probably been quite fortunate because we've still at work, and we've also had the album to keep us busy. So I think
through this big time.
I think it's so easy to I have my little wobbles every now and then, like everyone else seems to out there. I think it's important to have stuff to keep the mind active. Without this, maybe I would have wobbled a bit more.
Absolutely,
absolutely. I think we absolutely would have done, yeah.
Everyone needs a project. I mean, if it wasn't for this stuff that I do here, it would have been insane. But Paul, I know you're a Reading fan. Have they been making it more stressful or less stressful this year?
It was amazing, but yeah, it's kind of dropped off a bit. We're sort of at the standard Reading territory now, where the games that you expect to win, you either draw just about and or lose them, which is getting frustrating. But I'm sticking it out. I was born and bred there, so I've got to support my boys.
Got to rep your team. I mean, I fully appreciate that. Any other year, I'm a West Ham fan, so I know it's the worst thing ever when you lose to everyone that you're expecting to be. But this year, they're actually doing something because
that's amazing.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's because no one's there. It's sod's law. The one time we're going to do well, we can't actually be there. But anyway, as much as we will talk about music and probably not so much about football in just a bit, before we get to that point, I've got to get to know the real you. And to do that, I need to ask the hard-hitting questions. And so, guys, I have to ask, if you were a type of sandwich, what kind of sandwich would you say best represents you as a person?
Oh, fucking hell.
I would have said a New York deli sandwich originally, but now I don't eat red meat, so it's a case of... I don't know. Maybe just a pickle sandwich with pickles and mustard.
Yeah, I'd go with something with pickles and mustard as well, man.
Yeah, vinegary and sharpen the old taste buds.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it's not really about what's filling it. It's all about the condiments and the extras, isn't it?
Oh, big time. Yeah, all about the condiments, 100%. I guess that actually describe me as an individual. God, I'm quite a traditional, very normal beige person, so it's probably a cheese and pickle sandwich if you say that. But like a Tesco's own brand, meal deal, cheese and pickle.
Nah, man, you're a pot of English mustard, mate.
Thanks, pal.
Spicy. What about you, Ed?
I would have said very similar. I was going down the pickles and mustard route. So, yeah.
Couple of saucy boys. That's what I like to hear. But again, as much as I could talk about sandwiches all day and have done in the past, we should probably talk about the album. That is why you've stayed up late for, I say late, it's 10 to 8, but late for me. This evening. Your new album, Loss, is out in just a short while, dropping April 9th, if I've got my dates correct.
That's correct, man.
Very cool. So first of all, how long has this album been in the works? Because this sort of iteration of the band has been around since the Fragile Hope tour back in 2017. So has it been sort of on the boil since then, or has it been a bit more recent that you've really sort of kicked up the work on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of the thought process, or at least the idea of this to begin with, really did kick off probably, what year did we do that? 2017. So some point in 2018 is when we started talking about it. Might even have been early 2018. And it was a toss up as to what we were going to do to start with, whether or not we were going to sort of think more along the lines of an EP to just get ourselves moving, because we haven't done it for ages, and also just the idea of they're focusing your songs so people would really pay more attention to any, like, less songs and more songs, I suppose. But somewhere along the road, probably pretty early doors, we just went, screw it, let's just go for a full thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, I mean, this is the obvious question I have to ask you guys, but for the people, obviously, unlike myself, who have been lucky enough to listen to it early, what can people expect from this release? There's sort of, as I say, this new iteration of the band, as it were.
I guess a broad variety of, like, a lot of the stuff, you know, to nods back to the old albums, but also some pretty fresh stuff in there as well. I mean, that's typical, isn't it? Like
fresh in the 90s sense.
Yeah.
Funky fresh.
Big time. Funky fresh. But it's we tried to be, I don't know, just make a really nice mixture of different sounds on this one, make it interesting for the listener, as we always try to do that anyway. But I think this one particularly has just come out of the bag, and it's just been just really, really happy with the way it's turned out. It's also got those long epic tracks that people expect from the Devil Soul Soul album, but it's like shorter, heavier, like more intense, faster paced stuff in there. And yeah, it's got a real good variety. I think that's the best way to explain it.
Yeah, I think when we started writing it, we didn't put any, we didn't think about it that hard. It was just like, let's just write some songs that we're really into and try some things out that we're really into. It was really just about appeasing ourselves, and that's kind of what it's always been about, I think. And that's what's always vibed with us and seems to do it for some people, at least, anyway.
Well, that's it. I mean, you've got to write for yourself before you write in for anyone else. You've got to dig your own stuff. And
otherwise, what are you doing?
Exactly. And listen to it. It does feel like that sort of melting pot of a lot of really cool influences. Like, there's definitely elements of punk, but even like black metal with some of those, those real blast beat drums and everything at times. I think that there is a real, mix. So I suppose in a way, was there anything, either music or even non-music, that you were either watching or consuming or listening to that sort of helped to inspire the album while you were starting to write it?
I think it was anything at all that really kicks on. I tend to look quite inwards when I'm writing. Like, I don't know, I've never really gone, I'm going to listen to this album because it's similar in style. I've maybe gone and like tried to like replicate a type of vocal style or a part, etc. Never done it. Always been more about I just approach the song as it is. Just go, right, I'm going to hit that track and just try and work something that sounds good over it. And that's always been, maybe subconsciously, some stuff is sort of
I mean, it's
led into it.
To get away from stuff that you enjoy and listen to, I suppose. But I do know that, like, early doors when we first started out, one of our main things was that we didn't really want to sound like a lot of the current bands at the time. I'm not saying that we're like some completely out there band, but what we did try and do is we were very conscious of, if stuff sounded like other bands, we would often throw it in the bin and move onwards, kind of thing. And I think at this point, 17, 18 years later, we're so confident with what we sound like as a band that we know what we sound like. So honestly, I don't think, other than the fact that you can't get away from influence, like just stuff that you like, nothing consciously has gone into this record outside of sort of our own thoughts, I think.
Cool. Well, that is quite a nice segue, the sort of the introspective look on the music, because obviously you guys, this is the first time you've combined the writing duties for the lyrics. And I was watching one of the little docu-series things you were doing for Nuclear Blast, where you were saying at first it was a little bit, not awkward, but strange to sort of, effectively spill your guts to each other in those first few things. So how was that process? Was it a while before it felt more comfortable bouncing ideas back and forth, or was it just a little while and then instantly you were like, nah, this is fun, let's keep going with this?
I think with the vocal ideas, like melodies and stuff like that, it's pretty easy once we got our process together, because we were trying to write very independently to start with, and that was just chucking ideas over the internet. It didn't really work out because it's really bitty. And then when we got into like this little studio at our house and started writing together. It was just so
Yeah. But,
really good. Lyrics were harder. Lyrics were definitely harder because not because we were like it's difficult to put the personal side of lyrics over, because we had to work on the scale anyway, and it was just more. It's so difficult to because we write lyrics differently anyway. Both of us do. So the best way we found it was to put drafts together, and then let the other person sort of change bits where they felt was
absolutely. You can't work like collaboratively on the spot with lyrics. No one sits there and writes lyrics with somebody else. That's impossible. It was really a case of, like Paul says, like one of us would work on it, then we'd send it to the other, and they'd edit it and send it back. It was kind of sending stuff back and forth, and just making sure like we hit that really happy medium of the words being right, sounding right, getting the right stuff across, but also getting the phrasing right and getting the sounds of the words right and stuff, because it's really easy to go down one of them too much. Like it's really easy to go too far down the lyric side, but stuff sound a little bit disjointed and awkward, or vice versa. Like just like having a load of like basic most of my lyrics are pretty basic English, but like just like you know what I'm saying, like you really need to, like in terms of editing the lyrics, you really need to find that solid middle where you're kind of hitting all of the marks, and that's really what our process was, just throwing it back and forth until we got the correct thing, I think.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's one of those things that's it's obvious, but you never think about it. Like even with novels and everything, you very rarely see a book that's co-authored by someone. It's all very much a solo endeavor. So I can absolutely appreciate how it's the same deal with lyrics as well. But I mentioned the mini docuseries that you've been doing on Nuclear Blast, and I often find if I'm doing something anything creative, a lot of it is kind of subconscious, where you're working on things and things sort of happen without you really sort of cognitively processing it. But did you find actually sort of stepping back and then talking through the process and the album that you made, did it sort of help you understand the album better within yourselves? I've not really articulated that very well, but I hope it makes sense.
No, I know what you mean, definitely. I guess it was good to talk about it with the musicians in the band more, because I don't think, because we spent a lot of time together, so we probably kind of understood each other quite well in that process.
Pretty similar page, weren't we?
Yeah, 100%. But when you listen to parts, there's one coming out on Thursday that's going to be Rick and Lex talking about the artwork and the stuff like that. And it's like I didn't know half the stuff that they spoke about it, and I didn't know some of the bits and stuff that they said in some of the other snippets and interviews we did during that studio session. So that was good for me, but I guess in some ways some of the tracks I found, especially the singles, I kind of like, what did I actually write that about in the end? Because when we were going to talk about it, I was like, geez, we haven't spoken about it since we actually did it, and at the time we were so engrossed in it, like you wouldn't think, unless they're like a really focused topic like Lost, the last track on the record, or Beyond Reach, or Witness Marks, for example, sometimes you just forget. And like we started talking, and I'm like, I can't remember.
And also that when you're writing lyrics, and I know Paul is the same as me, I think, with this, like sometimes a song can really delve into a number of different things, and it's not even always that a song is 100% focused on sort of one topic. So it does get a bit like sort of messier like that, but sometimes that's what you need to do, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the wrong term, but it almost becomes a vibe rather than sort of,
Yeah. I think that's a really good way of explaining it, because Burden's the latest single. When we were talking about that, I was like, I started writing my bits on this about mortality and like the human condition and stuff, and then we actually look into it, and then I think you mentioned something about the burden you carry and etc. through.
Yeah, and it's
and I was like, oh yeah.
But I mean,
it all comes together.
The way that we write lyrics isn't like super. It's not. It's all about like how things that are happening around you make you feel, rather than singing about specifically the thing that's happening. So in doing that, you can really you can go at stuff like that, especially if the things are making you feel the same sort of way through a song, if that makes sense. And I think really that's what, for me, as a listener, that really helps. Like being able to like attach your own sort of things happening in your life to songs, that really helps, because as soon as someone starts singing about a really specific thing and articulating that in words, it instantly becomes less relatable, because unless it's like a global truth, you know what I mean, if you're talking about politics or like or global warming or whatever, as soon as you're talking about something that's just happening specifically in your life, it becomes anecdotal and stops being something that's relatable, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost, in a way, again, it's probably a little bit of a stretch, but the difference between telling someone's the feeling or showing them it, and I think obviously showing is always going to be much more effective than just explaining it literally, or you know, talking about whatever. But here at UDS, we don't just talk about music, we talk about the breadth of pop culture. So we're always talking about movies, video games, everything that we're interested in. We tend to have a chinwag about it. But with that in mind, if nothing was off the table, if, you know, had unlimited resource, unlimited context, everything and more, what would be your dream thing to have a Devil Sold His Soul song in, whether it be a movie or a video game or anything like that?
I mean, I'm big into video games, but I suppose a lot of the games that I play don't really necessarily have commercial tracks in, but I'd be 100% up with that. That'd be great.
What sort of game are you thinking?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, like I say, I tend to play songs which have play video games. Like, you only really hear songs on like driving games and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it working in sort of maybe like a Dark Souls or something like that, with like a lot of sort of epic battle scenes or something like that. I could see, especially, you know, some of the beefier tracks on the album, like the Narcissist and things like that. I think they would definitely work in a fight scene regardless. But
for me, like, I'm like, I don't know, it sounds really lame, but I play cricket. And I love cricket, so I'm going to make excuses for that. At the same time, the guy that played the wicket keeper on our team, he ran the company that does all the visual effects for Christopher Nolan's movies.
Oh wow!
So he's got like loads of Oscars and awards, etc. He's an absolute legend. Alice. And I'd love to have one of our tracks on like a Nolan movie. It probably have to be instrumental, to be fair. Get Zimmer in there to do the strings accompaniment on it, and that for me would be pinnacle.
Or even just something cool, like, do you remember at the end of The Matrix when Rage kicks in? It's just like, that's a cool moment. That's such a cool moment in the film.
I feel like that doesn't happen as much anymore, where, you know, they put in like a real licensed track in the end of a film or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to not do it in a cheesy way, isn't it? I mean, that was great, but I suppose sometimes it just sounds like, oh, okay, they've put the whatever track in, that's cool.
The last film I saw where like music was used in such a like strong way like that was probably the Joker. And obviously that got some stick because it was Gary Glitter and he's going down the stairs.
Oh yeah.
And it was perfect for it, but obviously massive pedo.
Yeah, context.
Don't give him any money.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I mean, if it's their time and place, then it absolutely can work. And I believe that there is Matrix 4 in the works. So, I mean, you've got some Hollywood contacts. So, I don't know. I feel like there's a chain of action that could make this happen. So we will see.
Mean, jokes aside, that would be unbelievable. It's so cool.
I have spoken to Al a couple of times about saying if he's got any of his team have got spare capacity to do some visuals for the live shows. That would be pretty neat, because they did all the visuals for Interstellar and things like that. So you're talking NASA use those images to train their astronauts and their people. That's how good their stuff is. Yeah.
So you're saying next gig on the surface of the moon, whether it be the real moon or
let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's go for Mars. Let's go for Mars.
Further, absolutely. We've got the footage there. Just green screen it in. It's going to happen.
Get on it.
But I'm going to put that in the 2022 plan category. But for the rest of this year, what have you guys got in store?
Build a rocket. We're gonna start planning our obviously touring. That's a big thing for us. Because we're saturated towards the end of the year, we might have to only do it next year. There are options potentially if people drop out of course to do it this year, because we don't know what international touring is going to be like, and we might not get US bands or European bands into the UK. We might try and take advantage of that if we can. But we're just we're thinking maybe we could do some more writing, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we just have to take it as it comes on, because like ideally right now we'd be getting straight on tour and playing at least playing a show or some shows, but obviously that's just not on the cards. And obviously the second people can start playing shows, everyone under the sun is going to be playing shows, and you're going to be up against like literally every other band under the sun, and no one's going to be able to afford to go to more shows than they did before. So it's going to be a tough one. So I think we're just going to have to sort of sit back and just figure out what it is how we're going to approach it. We're talking about doing some UK shows to start next year. That's a whole year away.
Ugh. Well, I mean, I'm hoping it will be sooner than that, because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there is serious withdrawal symptoms, even from this side as the audience member. It's tough. It's been over a year now, and
I just have no idea how I'm gonna deal with being on stage. And at the moment, honestly, like you, I go to the shops, Tom, and that's about it. And it's a case of how am I going to deal with standing in front of at least 12 people? And, yeah, it's a tough one. Going
to the supermarkets, like anxiety inducing as it is, let alone going to a gig.
Well, hopefully it'll be legal to be in front of more than 12 people at some point soon. And
no, he was making a joke about our popularity.
I know where you're going. I was going to say that is twice the legal amount at the moment. You are going all kinds of trouble. All kinds of
very
trouble.
True.
But
hang him up.
but no, I'm hoping it'll be sometime soon. And I mean, if it's anywhere near London, then I will definitely be down the front, come hell or high water.
We're definitely in London, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm down in Kent, but no one ever tours in Kent, so it's fine. London is technically my local. Unless you want to come down to Canterbury. I mean, we have a.
Canterbury's lovely, mate. It's a lovely place.
I do love Canterbury. I do. There's just not enough venues, but hopefully, maybe one day soon. But we have one final question, and it is our traditional final question, and it is about as stupid as most of the questions I've asked you today. So prepare yourself. But we are Upside Down Shark, and don't ask me why we're Upside Down Shark. It's a name we thought up many years ago, and frankly we're in way too deep to change it now. But with that in mind, guys, what are your favourite sharks? They could be real, they could be fictional, so it could be a shark from a movie or a shark from nature. But what would you say your favourite shark is?
Oh wow.
I mean, I like the ones I saw on the internet the other day, where it was like there was a diver who took I think it was either a big, what was it they were doing? They were taking either like rope or like line that was wrapped around them off, or like taking hooks out of them, and then eventually like loads of sharks were just coming in like, take this one off, please. And this one was
mad.
Amazing.
The friendly shark person.
Need to see that. That's cool. I don't know. That's a really tough one. I mean, Sharky and George.
Oh,
they actually Sharky and George for me.
I mean, Sharky. George wasn't a shark.
Yeah, but he's his pal, so he can hang out.
he may have been a pool shark on the weekends. You have no idea, but yeah, I mean, you don't get any pinker than that. So I mean, I love it. But guys, thank you so much for your time today, talking about sandwiches, sharks, and obviously the new album. And
beach sharks.
Oh my God, the most homoerotic sharks ever. Look at those six packs. But I mean, I'm going to have to flash that up, and that is the way we're going to fade out today. But guys, thank you so much again.
Take it easy, kids.
Cheers, dudes.